Today, I want to talk about something that affects each and every one of us, yet many people fail to recognize until it's too late. We all have a sacred space we call home. It's where we should feel the safest, where we can find peace and comfort. But what if I told you that there are certain individuals, people you might think are harmless, who could threaten that very sanctuary? They could bring chaos, destruction, and negativity into the place where you should feel most secure. In this world, there are 5 specific types of people: dangerous, toxic, and manipulative individuals who, once allowed into your home, can destroy everything you've worked so hard to build. Today, we're going to expose them so you can protect your peace, your relationships, and your future. Are you ready to take charge of your life and ensure that only the right people enter your personal space? Let's dive in and discuss how to recognize these red flags before it's too late. Manipulative behavior can be one of the most insidious and destructive forces in our personal lives. It can be difficult to recognize as it often manifests subtly and over time. People who engage in manipulative behavior typically seek to control, influence, or exploit others for their own benefit, often without the other person even realizing it. Recognizing manipulative behavior is crucial because once it has taken root, it can have lasting effects on our emotions, our relationships, and even our sense of self-worth. Understanding how manipulators operate, especially when they use tactics like guilt, control, or deceit, can help us protect ourselves from becoming victims of their manipulation. One of the most common tactics used by manipulators is guilt. Manipulative individuals are experts at making others feel responsible for their emotions, actions, or situations. They often make us believe that we owe them something, whether it's time, affection, or support. For example, a manipulator might say something like, "If you really cared about me, you would do this for me," or "I can't believe you're abandoning me when I need you the most." These statements are designed to make you feel guilty for not meeting their expectations or for not doing what they want. The goal is not necessarily to foster a genuine sense of responsibility, but to make you feel as though you have no choice but to comply with their wishes. Another powerful manipulation tactic involving guilt is the use of silent treatment or emotional withdrawal. A manipulator might refuse to speak to you or engage with you in any meaningful way as a means of punishing you for not fulfilling their demands. This tactic is particularly effective because it creates emotional distress and confusion. The victim is left wondering what they did wrong and how they can fix the situation, often leading to self-doubt and feelings of inadequacy. When manipulative behavior involves guilt, it often blurs the lines between genuine care and selfish exploitation. A manipulator doesn't care about the consequences of their actions on your emotional well-being. They only care about getting what they want. As a result, they are often able to guilt trip you into doing things that you might not otherwise do, simply because you don't want to deal with the emotional fallout. Another hallmark of manipulative behavior is control. Manipulators often seek to control the actions, thoughts, and even feelings of others. This can happen in a variety of ways, from subtle suggestions to outright demands. A common way that manipulators exert control is by creating a situation where you feel obligated to comply with their wishes. They might use phrases like, "You should do this for me because I've done so much for you," or "If you love me, you'll agree to this." These statements make it seem as though there is no real choice. They suggest that your only option is to comply or else face guilt or retribution. Manipulators who seek control also tend to undermine your autonomy and your ability to make decisions for yourself. They may criticize your judgment, belittle your opinions, or make you feel as though you're incapable of making the right choices. Over time, this can erode your confidence and make you more dependent on the manipulator for validation and direction. You may find yourself second-guessing your decisions, constantly seeking their approval, and ultimately becoming more controlled by their opinions and desires. This cycle can be incredibly damaging because it prevents you from thinking for yourself and asserting your own needs and wants. Another way that manipulators exercise control is through isolation. They may attempt to separate you from your friends, family, or support networks in order to make you more reliant on them. This isolation can occur gradually, starting with small comments like, "Do you really need to see your friends again? You spend too much time with them." or I don't feel comfortable with you hanging out with those people. Over time, these comments can plant seeds of doubt in your mind about the people around you, and you may begin to distance yourself from them, not realizing that you're being manipulated. By isolating you from your support system, the manipulator creates an environment where they are your primary source of emotional fulfillment and validation, making it easier for them to control your actions and decisions. Deception is another powerful tool that manipulators often use to influence and control others. Deceit can take many forms, from outright lies to half-truths, exaggerations, or omissions of important information. Manipulators lie or distort the truth to create a narrative that benefits them, often at the expense of the victim's understanding or well-being. For example, a manipulator might claim to be in financial distress to gain sympathy or convince you to lend them money, even though the truth is far from what they are portraying. Or they might make promises they have no intention of keeping, knowing that you'll be too trusting to question them until it's too late. In relationships, manipulation through deceit can be particularly harmful. Manipulators may lie to keep you in the dark about their true intentions or actions. For instance, they might hide important details about their past, such as a history of betrayal or dishonesty, in order to appear more trustworthy and reliable. They may also downplay or deny behaviors that are clearly damaging to the relationship, such as emotional abuse, cheating, or neglect, while convincing you that you're overreacting or misinterpreting the situation. Deceit is often used to create confusion and doubt in the victim's mind. By constantly distorting the truth or shifting the manipulator can make you question your own perception of reality. This tactic, known as gaslighting, is particularly damaging because it erodes your trust in yourself and your ability to discern right from wrong. Over time, this manipulation can leave you feeling disoriented, unsure of yourself, and unable to trust your instincts. A manipulator's use of deceit can also involve hiding their true feelings or intentions in order to create a false sense of intimacy or connection. For example, they may pretend to be caring and attentive only to reveal later that their actions were motivated by selfishness or a desire for control. This emotional manipulation can lead to a toxic cycle where you continue to give to the relationship only to find that your needs are consistently ignored or devalued. Recognizing manipulative behavior requires being vigilant and attuned to the subtle ways in which people can try to influence your decisions. One key sign of manipulation is the feeling of being pressured into doing something you don't want to do, especially when it's coupled with feelings of guilt or confusion. If you feel like you are constantly walking on eggshells, second-guessing your decisions, or wondering whether you're being manipulated, there's a good chance that you are dealing with a manipulative person. Trust your instincts and take note of the emotional toll that these interactions take on you. Another sign of manipulation is the pattern of behavior. Manipulators often engage in tactics like guilt tripping, controlling, and deceit consistently over time. If you find that your relationships are marked by recurring feelings of guilt, frustration, or self-doubt, it's important to assess whether the person you're interacting with is using manipulative tactics to gain power over you. The key to protecting yourself from manipulation is to recognize these behaviors early and establish strong boundaries. If someone consistently uses guilt to control your actions, or if they make you feel responsible for their emotions or circumstances, it's essential to set limits and protect your own mental and emotional well-being. Similarly, if someone tries to control your decisions or isolate you from your support system, it's important to assert your independence and trust your own judgment. Deception is often harder to detect, but being mindful of inconsistencies in someone's stories or actions can help you spot lies and half-truths. If something doesn't feel right, trust your gut. You have the right to question the information that's being presented to you and to demand transparency and honesty in your relationships. Recognizing manipulative behavior takes time and practice, but once you are able to identify it, you can take steps to protect yourself and prevent others from undermining your autonomy, well-being, and peace of mind. In a world where emotional energy is just as valuable as physical energy, Protecting your emotional well-being is crucial. Your emotional state directly affects your mental health, relationships, productivity, and overall quality of life. One of the greatest threats to emotional well-being comes from people who drain your energy, diminish your self-esteem, or undermine your confidence. These individuals often operate in subtle, insidious ways, making it difficult to recognize the harm they cause until it's too late. However, understanding how to identify and deal with these types of people is essential to maintaining a strong, resilient sense of self. People who drain your energy are often referred to as energy vampires. They can be found in various aspects of life: friends, family, colleagues, or acquaintances. And they have an uncanny ability to leave you feeling exhausted, emotionally depleted, and mentally foggy. They take, but rarely, if ever, give back. These individuals often have an overwhelming need for attention, validation, or support, and they may be unable or unwilling to provide the same in return. Their constant demands for emotional support or their tendency to monopolize conversations can wear you down, especially if you are someone who tends to give more than you receive. Over time, their presence can chip away at your emotional reserves, leaving you feeling drained and empty. Energy vampires often create situations where they make you feel responsible for their emotional well-being. They might share their problems with you constantly, even if you haven't asked for them, leaving you in a position where you feel compelled to listen, console, and fix things for them. While it's natural to be supportive and caring, people who drain your energy often lack the capacity to help themselves, and they repeatedly lean on others to fill emotional voids. This creates an unhealthy dynamic where your own needs are neglected and you become emotionally overburdened. Over time, you may start feeling as if you're carrying the weight of their emotional issues while they remain unaffected by your struggles. These individuals also tend to be experts at manipulating your emotions to maintain their grip on your energy. They may guilt trip you into spending time with them, making you feel bad if you need space, or even go as far as accusing you of not caring when you attempt to set boundaries. Their behaviors often force you into a pattern of self-sacrifice where you put your own well-being aside to meet their needs. However, this constant giving without receiving can eventually lead to burnout, leaving you emotionally drained and struggling to find your own balance. The more you give, the less you have to give, and over time, your ability to care for yourself and others diminishes. Another group of people who can have a significant negative impact on your emotional well-being are those who undermine your confidence. These individuals often take the form of critics, naysayers, or pessimists, and their impact is felt when they consistently make you feel inadequate or incapable. They are often quick to point out your flaws, magnify your mistakes, and minimize your successes, whether intentional or not. Their words and actions often chip away at your self-esteem, making you doubt your abilities and question your worth. The most damaging aspect of people who undermine your confidence is their ability to make you believe that you're not good enough. It could be a constant stream of negative comments, subtle put downs, or passive aggressive remarks that make you feel as though you're always falling short. They might dismiss your achievements, belittle your aspirations, or act like your dreams are unrealistic. Over time, these negative messages seep into your subconscious and shape your beliefs about yourself. You begin to internalize their criticisms, and they become a part of your self-image, even though they may not be true. The undermining of confidence can also manifest in more covert ways. Some people may pretend to be supportive on the surface, but behind closed doors, subtly work against your progress. For example, they might offer backhanded compliments, make condescending remarks, or sow doubt about your decisions. These comments may seem harmless on the surface, but over time, they plant seeds of insecurity. They leave you questioning your abilities, your choices, and even your own sense of self-worth. They often target your vulnerabilities, exploiting them for their own gain, whether it's to make themselves feel superior or to maintain control over you. Confidence is a fragile thing. When it's continually undermined, it can result in self-doubt, anxiety, and a fear of failure. You may find yourself second-guessing every decision, unsure of whether you are capable of achieving your goals. The more these individuals work to diminish your confidence, the harder it becomes to trust yourself and take action. Your own potential becomes clouded by their negativity, and you start doubting whether you are worthy of success or happiness. Sometimes the undermining of confidence comes from people who engage in toxic comparisons. These individuals constantly compare you to others, often to your detriment. They may compare your career to someone else's, your appearance to someone else's, or your relationships to someone else's, making you feel as though you are constantly falling short. These comparisons can create a constant sense of inadequacy as you feel as though you're never measuring up. They make you believe that other people are more successful, more attractive, or more deserving of good things, while you are stuck in a cycle of comparison, always feeling like you're not enough. Recognizing these individuals and understanding how they undermine your confidence is the first step in protecting your emotional well-being. You must become aware of the negative impact they have on your sense of self. It can be challenging to distance yourself from people who criticize or belittle you, especially if they are close to you, such as family members, close friends, or colleagues. However, in order to protect your emotional well-being, it is essential to learn how to set boundaries with these individuals and recognize when their behavior is no longer serving your best interest. It's important to remember that no one has the right to make you feel inadequate or diminish your confidence. While constructive feedback and honest criticism can be helpful, there is a fine line between constructive input and harmful undermining. Learning to identify when criticism crosses that line is vital to preserving your emotional health. A person who truly cares about you will offer support, encouragement, and help you grow in a positive direction, not tear you down. One of the most important aspects of protecting your emotional well-being is learning to prioritize your own needs. It can be easy to fall into the trap of constantly trying to please others, especially if you're someone who naturally gravitates toward being helpful or supportive. However, when you give too much of yourself, you risk losing touch with who you are and what you need. Protecting your emotional energy means recognizing when someone is draining you and learning to say no when necessary. Setting clear boundaries and sticking to them is essential in maintaining your emotional equilibrium. Additionally, cultivating a strong sense of self-worth is key to protecting yourself from people who undermine your confidence. When you have a healthy sense of self-esteem, you are less likely to be swayed by the negative comments or behaviors of others. You will be able to stand firm in your own truth and recognize that other people's opinions do not define your worth. Surrounding yourself with positive, supportive people who uplift and encourage you is also an important part of protecting your emotional well-being. These are the people who will celebrate your victories, provide a shoulder to lean on when things get tough, and help you grow into the best version of yourself. In a world that often values productivity and success over emotional health, it's easy to forget the importance of protecting your emotional well-being. However, it's crucial to remember that your emotions are the foundation of everything you do. When you allow people who drain your energy or undermine your confidence to stay in your life, you are sabotaging your own happiness and growth. By learning to recognize these toxic influences and setting boundaries, you can create an environment where you thrive, where your emotional well-being is prioritized, and where you are free to be your authentic self. Setting boundaries with toxic individuals is one of the most powerful tools for protecting your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Toxic people, regardless of their relationship to you, can be a serious drain on your energy, happiness, and sense of self-worth. They often bring negativity, drama, and harm into your life, manipulating situations to suit their needs while disregarding your own. Without clear boundaries, toxic individuals can overwhelm your sense of identity, destabilize your peace of mind, and create an environment where you feel trapped or powerless. Learning to say no to these individuals and understanding why it's necessary can be a transformative step toward reclaiming your life and prioritizing your own needs. Toxic individuals often manifest in various forms, such as those who are overly critical, emotionally manipulative, narcissistic, or excessively dramatic. They are individuals who consistently place their own needs and desires above yours, making you feel like you are always in a position of sacrifice. These individuals are often skilled at pushing your emotional buttons, creating situations that make you feel guilty, confused, or responsible for their problems. They tend to have little regard regard for your feelings or boundaries. And when you try to assert yourself, they may respond with anger, guilt trips, or emotional withdrawal. Over time, their behavior can erode your self-esteem, confidence, and emotional well-being, leaving you feeling depleted, stressed, and even emotionally numb. The first step in setting boundaries with toxic people is recognizing that you have the right to do so. Many people are raised with the idea that they must always be kind, accommodating, and selfless, even at the expense of their own happiness. It's often difficult to establish boundaries because society frequently praises self-sacrifice and the constant people-pleasing mentality. However, it's essential to realize that your emotional health, personal well-being, and peace of mind must be your top priorities. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and if you continue to allow toxic individuals into your life without establishing healthy boundaries, you will eventually run out of emotional resources. Saying no is one of the most powerful ways to protect yourself from toxic individuals. It may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you have a history of saying yes to everything or trying to avoid conflict. However, learning how to say no firmly and unapologetically is essential for protecting your mental and emotional health. Saying no is not an act of cruelty or selfishness. Rather, it is a recognition that you deserve respect, that your time and energy are valuable, and that you have the right to decide how you want to spend them. For example, if a toxic friend consistently demands your time but never offers any support in return, you have every right to say no when they ask for more. You are not obligated to give them your attention just because they demand it, nor should you feel guilty for putting your own needs first. By saying no, you communicate to them that their behavior is not acceptable and that you value your well-being more than continuing a one-sided, draining relationship. Saying no doesn't have to be harsh, but it does need to be clear and firm. You don't need to explain yourself extensively or justify your decision. A simple, direct no is often enough. The key is to stay consistent and assertive, even if the toxic individual tries to manipulate you with guilt or anger. Another critical aspect of setting boundaries is recognizing when someone's behavior crosses a line. Toxic individuals often test your limits, seeing how far they can push you before you react. They may manipulate situations or gaslight you into doubting your own perceptions. They might act as though their behavior is harmless or that you are overreacting when you express discomfort. In these situations, it's essential to trust your instincts. If someone's actions make you feel bad about yourself, hurt your emotional well-being, or cause unnecessary stress, then it's time to establish a boundary. Setting a boundary may involve stating clearly and directly what is unacceptable behavior. For instance, if someone repeatedly interrupts you during conversations or talks over you, you may need to say, "I'd appreciate it if you allow me to speak without interrupting." If someone belittles your achievements or criticizes your choices, you could respond by saying, "I'm not comfortable with that kind of feedback. Please respect my decisions." Boundaries are not about controlling the other person. They are about protecting yourself and creating a healthy environment where respect and understanding are mutual. In relationships where toxic individuals use emotional manipulation or guilt tripping to get their way, you may have to establish even firmer boundaries. For example, a toxic parent or partner might say things like, "If you loved me, you would do this for me." Or, "I can't believe you're choosing your friends over me." These statements are designed to make you feel guilty for asserting yourself or prioritizing your needs. In these situations, it's essential to recognize that their manipulation is not about love, it's about control. You have the right to say no to these types of emotional demands. You are not responsible for managing someone else's emotions or sacrificing your own happiness to appease them. A firm response like, "I understand that you're upset, but I am not going to engage in a guilt-based conversation," helps establish clear boundaries and protects your emotional space. While setting boundaries with toxic people is necessary, it's equally important to follow through with consistency. Toxic individuals often test your limits, especially when they realize that you are starting to assert yourself. They may push back or try to re-enter your life by offering promises promises of change or by trying to convince you that things will be different this time. However, consistency in enforcing your boundaries is key to ensuring that toxic people do not continue to violate your limits. If you say no to someone's request or behavior, you must be prepared to stand by that decision, even if they attempt to make you feel bad for doing so. If you continually weaken or ignore your own boundaries out of guilt or fear, you will only reinforce the toxic individual's behavior and allow them to continue crossing the line. At the same time, it's important to recognize that setting boundaries isn't always about cutting toxic individuals out of your life completely, though in some cases that may be necessary for your well-being. Sometimes setting a boundary may mean limiting the amount of time or energy you give to a person or setting clear guidelines for how you interact with them. For example, you might choose to spend less time with a toxic relative during family gatherings or limit the topics of conversation that are acceptable when dealing with a toxic friend. The key is to take back control of the situation and decide how much influence the toxic person can have on your life. Another important aspect of setting boundaries is learning to cope with the guilt or resistance that may arise. Toxic individuals often try to manipulate you by using guilt or emotional appeals to get what they want. They may use phrases like, "I don't know why you're doing this to me," or "if you really cared, you'd do this for me." These statements are designed to make you feel selfish or bad for putting yourself first. However, it's essential to recognize that these guilt tactics are a form of manipulation and should not dictate your behavior. Your needs are valid, and you have the right to set boundaries that protect your well-being. Over time, as you practice setting boundaries with toxic individuals, you will likely notice positive changes in your emotional health and overall sense of peace. You may feel a greater sense of control over your life, and you will likely notice a reduction in stress and anxiety as you create healthier relationships. Establishing boundaries allows you to reclaim your personal power, strengthen your self-esteem, and foster more positive, fulfilling interactions with others. It may take time and effort, especially if you've been accustomed to accommodating toxic people in your life. But the reward of regaining your emotional balance is well worth the effort. Setting boundaries with toxic people is an essential step in reclaiming your personal power and protecting your emotional well-being. By recognizing when someone's behavior is harmful, saying no when necessary, and following through with consistent boundaries, you can prevent toxic individuals from draining your energy or undermining your confidence. It may feel uncomfortable at first, but with practice, you will become more confident in asserting your needs and creating the space you need to thrive.